If one of the most successful wealth accumulation strategies is employing the mathematical magic of compounding, then a very important part of that equation is time.
Let's say that together Bob and his employer invest 1,600 Rand per month and increase that with inflation every year. If he got a real return of 5%, in other words, a return of 5% above inflation, then 40 years later, he would have the equivalent of around 2.4 million Rand in today's money. Remember, all of the numbers illustrated in this slide are reflected in present value, in other words, today's buying power. Let's say that after 10 years, Bob changed jobs. His HR director will ask him what he wants to do with his retirement fund, which would be worth around 248,000 Rand. He would have two options. The one would be to preserve his savings by transferring it to another retirement fund investment, and the other would be to cash it in. Now, Bob's seen this calculation that says if he saves over 40 years, he will have the equivalent of 2.4 million Rand. So he wanted to know how much less he will have if he cashes in his savings now. And then he makes an erroneous calculation. He deducts the value of 248,000 Rand from the 2.4 million Rand that he could have at the end, giving him a result of 2,152 million. He figures that this should be the way to do the calculation because, after all, he'll continue saving for the second, third and fourth 10-year periods. But his mistake is to think that by cashing in, he's cutting off the first 10-year period. He's not cutting off the first 10 years. He's in fact resetting the clock, which means that he's going to repeat the first 10 years, and he is in fact cutting off the last 10 years, reducing his investment down to 1,332 million. He's not losing out on 248,000 Rand as he thought. He's in fact losing out on 1,068 million. So even though he's been saving 1,600 Rand, increasing with inflation, for 40 years, the fact that he cashed in after the first 10 years means that he's almost halved the value of his investment. If he repeats this 10 years later, his investment value drops to 658,000 Rand, and if he repeats it again, he will only have 248,000 Rand when he retires.
The principles of persistence and preservation are keys in wealth accumulation.